Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna get to know me a little bit and we'll see how it goes. So, my name is Zuri Russell. I am 29 years old. I will be turning 30 in December. So that makes me a Sagittarius for all of my astrology girlies out there. For more of the astrology girlies, I am a Leo rising with a Capricorn moon. I'm from Collingswood, New Jersey, and I moved out to Chicago when I was 19. When I moved out to Chicago, I started studying fashion design at the Art Institute. The Art Institute is actually a school that is no longer around in the city of Chicago. It is not the School of the Art Institute. I'd like to make that distinction because there's two schools in Chicago that have very similar names. The one that I'm referring to is no longer around. That school was scamming their students apparently, so they shut down. And people are no longer able to use their degrees or whatever the case may be. I don't know what's going on with the school, but they shut down. And I dropped out back in 2017, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I went to school for a little while for fashion design at that school, only for a semester, so I dropped out after that. I dropped out because I actually took a job back before work from home was actually like a thing. There was this job that was like, oh, you're gonna work from home, we're gonna send you equipment, and I fell for it. So they scammed me, and so I could no longer afford school, so I ended up having to drop out. So because of that, instead of being able to continue going to school, I had to immediately start working. So after that, I got a job as a host. So I started hosting in this cute little restaurant, just kind of on the mall, in the mall, in one of the malls in Chicago in the city. And so that restaurant is no longer there. They shut down. I don't know why they shut down, but they're no longer there. And I met one of my exes there. And he and I have this really long, tragic story that I won't get into. But we had this whole thing, and it was a whole thing. But long story short, I ended up in the hospital, and I also ended up being diagnosed with bipolar at the time as well. So that was the first time that I got my first diagnosis of bipolar. But I didn't get put on any medication at the time, so I basically went on with life kind of being undiagnosed bipolar the first go around. So after that, we kind of stayed in this relationship, and it was really toxic, and it was really just not good for me. And I was this struggling artist, and I was trying to like do sewing, and I was trying to do art, and none of this was in a fostering environment. So both of those things took a back burner. So I didn't pursue art at the time. After that relationship had ended, I'd like moved out on my own. I was living on my own, and I was still kind of working these odd jobs in like the hosting industry, trying to find my way, trying to find myself, like as you do in your 20s, trying to discover what I like, who I am, what I want to do, where I'm trying to go. And I have this brand new bipolar diagnosis, and I'm not medicated for it. So I'm also trying to navigate the world with that on my shoulders. So there's that. So a couple of years go by and nothing really major happens. But then I turned 25. So a big gap. So a big gap of time where nothing kind of traumatic happens and nothing major. And I get this job as a barista. And the job as the barista is wonderful. It stabilizes me a little bit, and I don't have another. I've been in the hospital a second time at that point. because I'm dealing with some major depression. I'm having some manic episodes, and you know, they're trying me on different medicines at this time, and like I'm trying to just make it work. I'm trying to make my bipolar diagnosis work for me and navigate life. So I'm trying different medicines now, and they have me on antidepressants, and I'm trying to navigate the world. And so I have this barista job, and it's going great. It's going well. I'm working independently, and I have a lot of responsibility at this job. So I'm getting to kind of rely on myself and do the work adequately. At the same time, I'm kind of coming into this queer identity, and I'm discovering my queer identity and really coming into that and really discovering that, you know, I'm not just straight. Because previously I'd just been kind of just dating men and realizing that like that's not really for me. Like I'm a little bit more fluid with my sexuality, and I started experimenting with, you know, dating more women and non-binary and pansexual people, and kind of becoming more myself in that regard. So I'm working this job, I'm making good money, and I'm living on my own. I have a cat. I'm stabilizing myself, and things are looking good. My bipolar is under control. Things are looking up. Things are starting to make sense. I meet this girl, and we hit it off, and I make the decision to move to Indiana with her. And this is also at the start of 2019, so you know what happens in 2019, 2020. You know, like things are about to hit the fan globally. So I do that. I moved to Indiana before things really start to unfold. So I'm like at work watching the news and watching things unfold. And so that summer in May, I moved to Indiana to go be with her, which may have not been, in hindsight, it's, you know, not the best decision to have made. But, you know, when you're young, you're in love, you're trying to navigate the world. And, you know, I've also got this bipolar thing. So, you know, maybe that had something to do with it. But at the same time, you do crazy things when you think that you're in love. So I moved to Indiana with her, and we're starting our life together, and we're thinking about this van life, and, you know, we're doing all this crazy stuff. And I come off of my medicine because I no longer have access to it in Indiana, because I don't go to doctors anymore, because the transition was just so stark for me. And it just ends up not being a very good transition. So things become a little bit more dark and a little bit harder for me to manage. So things get worse in Indiana for me. And again, like everything that I wanted to do, all of the creative things that I have planned, all the work that I put into stabilizing myself with my barista job kind of fall back to the wayside. And so I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not doing the things that I need to be doing to make sure that I am taken care of and I'm stabilizing. So they fall to the wayside, and this relationship is falling apart, and it's becoming very hard to manage. And so the final straw is this really, really horrible moment that I won't get into because it's very traumatic, and it's not something that I want to talk about really on a YouTube video right now. But ultimately, it comes to an end, and I leave. So I moved to Philadelphia to stay with my friend, who is like, we need to get you out of this situation. This is a really bad situation for you. And he helps me find find an apartment, and I'm back to building myself back up and finding stability. And I have a remote job. I'd gotten a remote job in Indiana, so I was working at a remote call center. So I was doing that in Philadelphia for a little while, and I just in a new city, I just wanted to have a fresh start. So I started looking for other work, and I landed another host job. So I started hosting again, and I started making friends, and I started kind of coming out of my shell, and I started learning about spirituality, and I started taking care of myself. I started meditating. I started eating right. I turned to a vegan diet. And I really started learning about taking care of myself. I was working out every day, or at least 5 days out of the week. I started really taking a look at my life and taking a look at my decisions and my choices and where I was going and what I was doing and who I was being, and taking my bipolar into consideration, because I had been making a lot of really bad decisions at the time, and I just wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy with anything, with where I was going, what I had done, who I had been, and I needed to change. I was desperate to change. I wanted to be better. So my diet changed, my habits changed, my friends changed, but with that, I did start drinking, and I started smoking, and even with all these other good things that started happening, I did pick up a couple of other bad habits that maybe didn't serve me as well. So Chicago had become my home. And things were going well in Philadelphia, but I felt homesick. So at the end of the year, I decided to move back to Chicago. And this was 27, 28 years old that I made that decision. So I moved back to Chicago, and I was staying with a friend for a little while until I decided. So I was staying with my friend, and then I moved into my own apartment. And in that own apartment, I completely reset everything that I had done, everything that I had been, every person that I had come across, all of the decisions that I had made, my bipolar diagnosis, everything that had been holding me back, I had decided no longer. I didn't want that to affect me anymore. I didn't want that to be my identity. I didn't want that to hold me back. So I moved into that apartment, and all the toxic people in my life, I scrubbed the slate clean. I dropped all of my toxic friends. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. I stopped beating myself up. And I started taking care of myself, and I really started taking care of myself. So from there, I went to the gym. I joined a gym and started going to the gym. And I quit hosting. I quit the restaurant industry altogether, and I found a job sewing. I had been sewing on and off for years, and I was desperate for my creativity to come back, and I was blessed to find a job in the alterations department. So I started sewing professionally, and that really turned my life around, and it really brought a lot of balance back into my life. And from there, I just started connecting spiritually with the higher power. I started taking care of myself better, and I was eating right, and I was exercising, and I really started taking art seriously. And fast forward to now, so that was 2 years ago. So 2 years later, I have a very solid workout program that I follow to a T, with some variation here or there, because we're all human. I am medicated on a medication that works really well for my bipolar. So I have everything that I need taken care of as far as that goes. I've stabilized and I'm very happy with my plan. I'm enrolled in college now, so I'm very excited to take you on that journey with me on my college plan. So I'm in school for art, digital multimedia design, so I'm going to be a designer as well. And I also am drawing every day, which I plan on taking you on that journey with me as well. So that's going to be really exciting. And I have met a wonderful partner who is supportive and kind, and everything has turned out pretty well. So thank you for listening, and thank you for getting to know me a little bit more, and I'm excited to share this journey with you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!